The good donkey. I am not pleased. Paint is dripping down my hoof, and the colors are muddled together. I shouldn't complain. I agree to it, of course. Hafish is putting together a zoo, and he asked me to be the zebra. You are a very good donkey, Habibi, he told me 3 days ago. But the border is closed, and everyone says prices for using the smuggling tunnels have gone up. I can't afford the zebra in Damascus, and the one in Cairo is twice that price. He gestures wildly, scanning my ear odds. What a waste. I don't know much about borders, but I would do anything for Hafish. He's more than a father to me. And so here I am, Hafish painting me in a black and white strips. He has hung 2 torches from the ceiling with strings to use when the powder is cut, and then one above me swings gently, pitching its light back and forth and making me dizzy. Hafish has stopped in middle and knowing him, the paint will dry unevenly and I will look awful. And then, what kind of zebra will I be? We are in the middle of the stable, behind the house. When the knocking starts, the door is flimsy. The building is flimsy. And so things around us tremble when anyone rubs on it. He should be paying attention to me and to what he is doing, but he goes away. It's always like this with Hafish and me. I am here, he goes. There is always someone else. He returns, and I am still here. This time, he returns with several men I don't recognize. They are gathered in clusters, some with their backs to me. They speak in low voices, as every so often one of them grunts as though he is carrying something heavy. This is the man I was telling you about, says one of the strangers. Mashallah, it's good that you are here and willing to take them in, says another to Hafish. Yes, of course. Bring them in. Hafish opens the door wide. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. They are alive. That's all that matters. What do you want them? Oh, where do you want them? Asked another stranger. This one sounds angry or irritated. They all struggled, though the main area of my stable, as though they aren't used to carrying things. Over here by me, over here, Hafish has led them to me. There is a bed of hay that I like to lie on, and Hafish has brought them to it. He isn't sure what to call me at this precise moment. I am half done and dripping paint. I try to catch his eye so I can stare at him pointedly, but he's busy smoothing the hay, my hay, into brown in an uneven mound. I don't like the way those strangers smell, sweaty and a little like gasoline. They grow, the crowd near me with two large bundles, several men to each bundle. Are they sedated? Hafish asked. Yes, yes, the first man. He must be the leader because he isn't carrying anything for the journey. Also, they are tame. They have been hand raised since birth, like house cats. The leader puts his hands on his hips as he watches and the others and smiles widely. Have have they been in a zoo before? Hafish stands with the leader and watches the others lay two enormous rough cloth bundles to my hay. He runs a hand over his beard and the same measured rhythm he uses when he brushes me. Yes, yes, they were in a little zoo at Behet Hanum, the leader says. The zoo was lucky to have them, you know. Hafish nods. I walk closer to him and stand at his shoulder. Hafish reaches back and starts to scratch my chin. We both watch the bundles as they start moving. I smelled I smelled something madly. Familiar, but I can't place it. The female was stolen. The leader reaches into his pocket and pulls out a packet of cigarettes. Hafiz watches burly as the man lights one and gestures towards one of the bundles with the lit end. She was missing for 3 months. We found her with a bunch of bandits. They were charging families to take photos with her, but they mistreated her, so she's statist. Statist. Actually, they're both that way now. The leader goes on. I was. It was the airstrikes. As the airstrikes. It was the airstrike. The airstrikes. They hit part of the zoo and much of the grounds were destroyed. He starts up again, tapping ash off his cigarette. I was surprised to hear there was a zoo in Gaza City. I thought it closed. It did, says Hafiz. I'm reopening it on the old site. It's just down the road. I used to take my nieces there. Hafiz glanced back at me and then turns to the leader. Children are still children, even in times like this. the little nods at Hafish, times like this being what they are. I went there, you know, he says, to the university, the one south of the zoo. Oh, yes, 3 semesters. What did you study? Hafish scratches his nose and looks around. He never went to university, which is fine with me. Philosophy, says the leader, laughing, which disappointed my father. He wanted me to be an accountant. And you didn't finish? No. A pause while the leader smokes. But you know, now I do this. He reaches his hand out in a sweeping motion to take in my stable and me, as if we make up the whole of his life. And what does your father think of that? Hafish asks. My father is dead. Hafish and the leader stares at each other until Hafish looks down. Come, let me tell you what I know about how to take care of them. The leader put a hand on Hafish's shoulders and leads him away from me. Eventually, strangers all leave. Hafish absentmintedly pats my frank and then goes back to his own house. And I'm left here to figure it out by myself. The 2 bundles take up every inch of space of my hay. Where am I supposed to go now? I stare at the 2 of them. One of them is moving more in grab, and the fabric has started to pull apart. A large 20-haired paw emerges with dusty black pads on the bottom. The paw stripes at the fabric, pulls it away, and reveals an unmistakable head. He blinks wildly, yawns wildly. He blinks wildly, yawns wildly, and then pulls at the fabric, enfolding his companion. Another head appears, and they both fully emerge, stretching lazily and kicking the rest of the fabric away to reveal the full length of themselves. The male has a mane. The male has a mane. He's groomed, but the mane looks shabby. He initiated. They both are actually. What are you supposed to be? Asked the male. I'm a zebra, I said. I stand up a little straighter, stretching my neck out as long as I can. I flicked my tail a couple of times. I don't know them and honestly, this is none of their business. I don't think that's true, says the male. Are you calling me a liar? I ask. He didn't finish you, says the female. She is so quiet. I can barely hear her, but she is loud enough for me to know I'm being insulted. Your face is convincing enough. He did it. He did a nice job, but your back end isn't done. I can see it, and it's dripping your hood, into your hoof. Yes, I know. I look down and see that the tear of white paint that had turned earlier had has dried. I knew it would be this way. Hafish, he forgot about me. It doesn't matter, I said loudly, loudly. What's important is that when Hafish is done, the children won't know the difference. They will be happy anyway, and that's what's important, you know, the children. I haven't seen any lions in years. I wouldn't say that I have missed them. Hafish is late with my breakfast. When he finally comes in, he's carrying a bunch of oats under one arm and struggling to carry a bucket full of soapy water in a brush with the other. A bag is slung over his shoulder and a towel hangs around his neck. We have to wash all that off and start over, he says, without even greeting me. Hello, I said. Yes, hello, yes. Hurry up and eat. I need the paint to dry before I take you and your things over. Over here, I didn't sleep well. Those lions were snoring, and I didn't like looking at them when they came in. I didn't like seeing all their bones jutting out everywhere. It isn't nice. It isn't nice. Hafish wet the brush and scoops it down my flank in long strokes. The zoo, to the zoo, you idiot. The zoo, to the zoo, you idiot. Have you forgotten? You are the zebra. He puts the brush down and brushes into his bag. Right here. I remembered. Hafish offers me a carrot. When I pick it up, I let my lips brush his flat palm. He said once that, so he liked that. I like carrots. They are sweet, and I like the texture. so crunchy. We don't have them very often. It's a treat. I must have been good. I know I'm the only one that has, but I really am a very good donkey for a fish. I am an excellent donkey. I'm sure I'll make a very fine zebra. I'll do my best. I think if I concerning if if I concern if I concentrate on the dough of a zebra on my mind, I will be able to feel like in my body become a zebra, I think. Wait, a fish? Yes, he moves the brush up to my neck and sweeps down to my shoulders. I like the feel of the bridles. They get just past my throat, and I can't feel them on my skin. I could fall asleep like this. My things. Why are we talking? My things. Hafiz stops with the brush and walks to my face. He holds it on his hands and presses his forehead against mine. You have to stay here, Habibi. That's how it works. Stay, but only during the day. Yes, when the children are there. When the children are there, at night too, he says, and goes back to sweeping the brush across my flank. I look down at my front feet and see a soapy gray mess that pulled it in the dirt. This is turning my floor into mud. I don't like it. But I like here, I said quietly. I live here with you. Think of the others. He puts the brush down and picks up the towel. He dries my drifty as he dries me driftily, as though there is no time to waste. What would they think if I treated you differently? If I treated you like you are special, then it might make them feel bad. Yes, but I'm special, I said, mostly to myself. Hafiz laughs, and now I'm embarrassed. I don't like when he laughs at me. I don't mean to be funny. It reminds me of when I was smaller and wasn't used to the length of my legs. Or the time when he put that bow on my tail and all the goats said I was his girlfriend. I remember yelling at him, "He's going to eat you all. I am special." I pray much louder than I intend. I don't like my voice when it's loud. To me, it sounds like an unrestrained longing. And nobody takes me seriously when I do it. Of course, Habibi, very special. I can hear his voice, his words. I can hear his words spread out the way they do when he's smiling as he picks up his jars of white and black paint. Of course, I am a joke to him. Let him see me stop carrying things, and then he will know. And then he will know. Hafish walks me to the zoo. It's a short distance down the road from the small plot of land where he keeps my stable and where we have always lived. The sign for me, the sign for the zoo is actually remade from the old sign. It's a long piece of wood with a crack that runs the length of it. And Hafish has tried to cover the old name. It used to say Gaza Zoo, carved into the wood in block letters. Hafish has painted over the carving in black and done his own sign in bright yellow. It says Hadio ad Alamana for sunny days. The lettering was done by hand and the paint is flaking off. The carved letters still show shows through. I don't want to hurt his feelings, so I said nothing, but Hafish could have done better. He could have tried a little harder, but there is a breeze bringing the zine of blossoms from the olive tree nearby. The olive tree nearby. And the sun is warming my back. This could be nice. My new home is a large pen flanked on each side by other enclosures. I share a chain link partition with each of my neighbors. I have dry glass, a few boulders, and plenty of space to walk around. A fish has brought a few of my things. My long rope with knobs, my favorite bucket, and one of my tires. I have 3. And stuck them in a corner. He has made a kind of little house so that I can feel as if I am in my stable. On one side, it's a row of 4 large cages, and the one closest to me, he has put the lions. If I throw across my space on the other side, there's another row of smaller cages. And the one next to my pen has a trio of peacocks. Hafish said that the lions like me and that being next to me will make them feel less homesick than that It will be good for me to be with them, whatever that means. I don't know who is supposed to make me feel less homesick. I don't feel like talking to the lions. It's their fault that I'm stuck here. I pick up my bucket and drop it in a few times and push around my tired simply to pass the time. When night falls, I wander into my little shed to sleep. I can't bring myself to lie down, so I dozed on my feet, dreaming of nothing. In the morning, before I open my eyes, I almost convince myself that I'm still at home, but the smells are different. The air smells more opened, earthy, and I can detect the woody smell of the older birds that made up my stable. And yet, with my eyes closed, I can still imagine myself there. And if I am there, a fish will come in to brush me. He will refill my water, give me oats, hold out his hand with a treat, since last night I was so good, and everything will feel exactly as it was before. Then I hear a noise that I haven't heard before. Today is the first full day that I will spend apart from Hafish. I emerged from my shed to examine what I supposed I will call the cage to my right. It's big enough as far as I can tell. Iron bars, a large tub of water, some scattered vultures, a large wooden box with a square opening in one end, the same hard packed dirt that covers my space, and the lions tangled up in a snoring lion knot. The female sprawled on her back, the male with his chin tucked over the female's neck, so they fit together like one beast. As if there is no end and no beginning between these two cats. Hey, I said. Nothing happens. I walk right up to the iron bars and mesh separating our spaces. Hey, I said again, louder. They steer. The female's back legs stretch slowly. Their tails start flipping back and forth, sending flies stirring. The male raises his head and yawns, his mouth transforming into a gaping cave. I retreat a few steps and watch them untangle themselves and roll apart. The male stands and blinks at me several times. Well, I ask. Well, what? What are your names? What should I call you? I don't want to call out, hey, every time. I have something to say. I am Bakri, and that is Beisha. He looks over at the female, who has rolled into her back again and is staring at me with her head twisted upside down. Are you mates? We are brother and sister. Whipper turns away from the partition and walks over to Baisha. He licks the top of her head and flops down next to her. We are a little pride of two. You behave like mates, I said. All that closeness, all that being next to each other. I don't like it. It's rude when I am here in my enclosure all by myself. We have been apart, says Bisha. She pushes her head into her brother's, rubbing the sides of her face on his paw. I took to their side. I am not sure whether I should look at them or not. I have forgotten what the rules are for lions. Where are the others? Asked Becker. What others? Nobody has ever asked me this before. The others like you. Your brothers and sisters. Your parents. Where are they? I don't know, I said. I didn't know I was supposed to have others. I look over at my pile of belongings, which seems pitiful and ridiculous now. I have a fish, and also I trailed off. My whole life I have had only a fish, and now also the zoo. I don't know much about other zoos, but I know Hafish is proud of this one. It isn't large, but he talked to me the whole time he was putting it together. I know he has peacocks and two different kinds of monkeys, and a porcupine, and a pair of lemurs. And he has a small herd of goats for children to pet. It isn't big, but I think it can be lovely. He used to walk me through the old grounds, pointing out the new cages and enclosures here and there as everything came together. He is proud that we are not too far from the seaside, even though I don't want to live here. I have to admire its nice. Those men that brought you were strangers, I finally said. They were ours. They were ours, Bakir says, and they searched for Baisha, Baisha, because they knew we belonged together. They found her with thieves and a tiny cage. The tip of her tail had been cut off. The shame. Here he pauses and licks one of her ears several times. Bisha looks up at the front under the canopy of her brother's head. She flips her tail around her feet, and it is then that I notice the scared and undazzled and somehow more vulnerable than what I imagined. The shame, I can see it now. At dusk, on the second night, I heard a fish voice murmuring to the lions. I walk to the other side of my enclosure and linger near a fence post. A fish isn't looking at me, but he could see me if only he would turn his head. I'm close enough to hear his voice as he pushes two metal balls through a low hinged metal door in the back gate, other enclosure, gate of their enclosure. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hear him say, this is all I have today. He stays to watch them eat, and I can hear the bones scraping the surface on the earth as the lions devours whatever is in them. Dios mío. Night falls like a curtain, snuffing out the last light of dusk. Sometimes I can see that things are beautiful here, but when night comes, I feel like a shroud, like a shroud. I want to see what a fish will do when they are finished eating, so I can stay where I am. But all he does is quietly reach back through the door to take the balls away. When he walks away after shutting the door, he comes inside my enclosure. At first he says nothing. He just reaches out and runs his hand down my nose, pet my ears. I can smell the sea on him, and I know that he went fishing today. And And then a memory overtakes me with warning of a day when a fish took me to the ocean. We walked through the market, and I carried his things. It's beautiful there. He said, it's beautiful there. He said that day. What does this beauty mean if I can never live it? If I can never long for it? I kept looking toward the sea, and all I could see was deep blue extending forever. Habibi, I know you're angry with me, Hafiz says now. You left me behind, I said. I know, I am sorry, but I had so. I had to. I had to. I don't like being left behind, Hafiz. I don't like being away from home. It's just like a little while, Habibi. It's just for a little while, Habibi. Maybe we won't always have checkpoints, and maybe somebody I can cross the border to bring over a real zebra, and then I can bring you home. He reaches out and runs his hand down my nose again. Look, I brought you something. He slides his other hand right under his lip, right under my lips, his palm open flat. Carrots, carrots. He stands with me, and I crunch them, and I crunch them, and then he kisses my forehead and walks away. I want to watch him quietly. I want to let him have the evening, but blackest questions tugs at me. Hafiz, wait, I call. He pauses and pauses. He pauses and passes his hand over his hair. I watch the breeze gentle rip the fabric of his shirt. I think that he will continue walking, will let the dark swallow him. But he turns and walks back to me. He stares at me and says nothing. He sighs. His eyes are the only question. Hafiz, do I have parents? Do you have parents? A smile is lightning to spread across his face, and I am afraid that he will laugh at me. Yes, Hafiz, parents. I want to know if I have them. He steps closer to me and places one palm on my forehead, and one on the side of my face. In that moment, I remember him placing his hands on me this way long ago. I was smaller. The world was bigger. The olive tree were in bloom. The memory is so tattered that I can grasp little else about it. Only his hands. Everybody has parents, Habibi, he says, bringing his face closer to mine. It's how we are born. We have parents. You have parents. We all have parents. But where are mine? I search his face. I want him to tell me what they are waiting for me somewhere. I wanted to tell me if I want him to tell me that they are waiting for me somewhere. Habibi, he says, and lets his hands fall. I just fall from my face. He steps back and looks away into the dark of the night. I think about them all the time. They belonged to my friend Jalid. Khalid. They belong to my friend Khalid. I keep watching him and listening. We have never visited with Helene. None of his friends are named Helene. We were children together. We lived in Habalia camp, and his family had 2 donkeys. They would carry things for him to the soup. Hafiz does not look at me as he tells the story. Building a zoo was something he wanted to do, actually. He loved animals. There was this toy he had when he were small. It was this little model of a lion, and I had a name. I had a many that he swore was real Ford, but I don't know. He wouldn't let me touch it. I teased him every time I saw him. Khalil and his lion. I don't know him, I said. Where is he? He's gone, Habibi. I wait for Hafiz to find his words. I'm afraid I know what it means for him to be gone. It wasn't a war, really, he says after a while. At the time, everyone says it was just an escalating, a drum, someone at the base right over the border sitting at the computer station to saw him on a screen, some pixels that made up Khalil Halil on his way from Azun, and Hafiz is silent for a while. His hand is over his mouth. He looks up at me, finally tears bring in his eyes. Halil, you know, and his two donkeys. Halil, you know, and his two donkeys, they didn't. He trails off. I couldn't have easily been. I could have been easily been me. Tomorrow it could be me, or next week. Have I said Have I said that a fish doesn't sleep most nights? He rubs his face as if to clean it off his memories. It was right after you were born. I told his parents that I would keep you for only a few days, Habibi, to help them. He was their only child. His father always said he would come retrieve you, but a few days turned it into a few weeks, would come, which became a few months, and you became 9. And the truth is, Habibi, I couldn't let you go. You were so stubborn, mostly legs, and your serious face. But your parents, when I think of them, I like to imagine they are in Hamad now. I can't hear Hafish anymore. Isn't I feel isn't is instead I feel as though I am living outside my own body. I look over and see myself a lonely donkey standing before a lonely man. I don't know what to say. I don't I don't I I don't know what to say. I want to wait. I want to wail well but I don't, because no one I can make will match what I feel. I try to remember my parents. I think that I should. They were mine. I need to remember them. But all I can see in my mind are images of my own long face looming over me. I will keep trying to do this for days afterward. That I can't will be a thing that torments me. What about yours, Hafish? I ask. What about your parents? They are in the West Bank, Habibi. I can't see them anymore. I can't get through. He reaches into his pocket and retrieves a rectangle of folded paper, which he carefully opens. The paper is fragile at the creases, as though it has been along these lines thousands of times. This is us, he says, pointing at a spot on the map near a sea. And this is the West Bank where my family is. He draws his finger along a wandering handwriting and a wandering handwriting line up to a point farther up the map. And that is the road I would take to see them if I could. When did you last see them? It has been 9 years. Do you remember their faces? Yes, Alhamdulillah, I do. By the third day, I realized that since I don't, by the third day, I realized that since I won't be that I won't be going home with Hafish just yet, I'll be lonely if I don't make an effort with my neighbors. I wander over to the partition and stand next to it watching them. Their eyes are closed, so I stomped my feet a couple of times and made some huffing noises to see if they will wake. Nothing. I trot over to my things and return with my knotted rope. I fling him back and forth a few times, and at the end of the rope hits the partition. Habash's ears twisted once or twice, but neither lion looks at me. I have forgotten that lions sleep so much. I grab my bucket and drop it on purpose to make some noise. But they keep ignoring me. This will take more, I think. So, hello, I said finally. Bakar's eyes open slightly and rest on me. He blinks twice, yawns, and stretches his front paws out before rolling into his back and looking at me with his head upside down. Hello, he says. Do you always sleep this much? I need to visit my dreams. He yawns again, and I see Baisha open her eyes and stretch. This isn't easy. I look around, kick a clod of dirt at my feet. Hafish is my only friend, I finally blurt out. I need somebody to talk to. I understand that part. I do. Beggar nods. Has it always been the two of you? Baisha asks. She has wandered over to the partition that separates us and licked the metal before settling next to Baker. Yes. And why exactly did he paint you like a zebra? She is so curious. For the children. Yes. So you have said. But why not get a real one. The tunnels are closed now. A fish can get one through. Can get one through. The lions stare at me wondrously, smuggling. I said, "For Egypt, from Egypt, it's how, it's how a fish got most of them here." I tossed my head. I tossed my head in the general direction of the zoo at large. They are silent, and I don't know if it means I should go on. I'm not sure how to explain how it feels to us to live in the city, the way that it seems as if I had reached down and gripped all of us, squeezing, squeezing up until we couldn't move. A fish would sit late at night in the shed, had dust quivering around his head, and he ran through list of animals that he wanted but could not find. I want to tell him about the map I saw the other night, how a fish folded carefully again and slipped it on a pocket, how he carries that road that with him, what it means to me, what it means to me that I didn't know, but my tongue feels too large in my mouth. It's just something I have to do. I finally said, I have to be the zebra. I think you will make a good zebra, Habibi. I think you will make a good zebra. Baisha walks right up to the partition. Come here, she says, looking right at me. Why? Just come here. Come next to me. I walk to the partition and hang my head down near hers. She gets as close as she can and sniffs my face. I feel her breath warm. Her dark nose dances around me like a flitting insect. I realize that from far away it looks like the silhouette of a cup with a stern. This close, I can see it is damp and glistering. She smells like so many things that are foreign and familiar to me. Earth. The meat she ate earlier, whippered and faintly off earlier, whipper, and faintly of a fish. Of his hands, she stretches her pink thumb out of her mouth and gently licked the end of my muesli with it. I see who you are then. She steps back, who steps and stares at me. Yes, that is who I am. And so it is that I have made an animal friend on my own. Poor thing. It is with it is with the lions that I learned to not be afraid of the children. I like the idea of them, but the first time that I see them in person, they darted up to the fence in swarms. Their hands reach out to me. Their eyes are wet. Their voices call out, Abimar, Awashiki, Awashishi, Altibar, Awashishishu. I am afraid to let them touch me. On the first day, I feel like 1,000 hands are touching towards me. I run to the back of the enclosure and grab my knotted rope. I will throw it at them, and if that doesn't work, I will bite them. Stay back, I yelled I yelled at the lions. They are dangerous. Becker is deliberately standing close to the children, rubbing his face against the cage with hardly any distance between his face and their hands. They aren't dangerous, Busha says, supine in the middle of the cage. I think I'm going to bite them. I have decided to stay at the back of my enclosure, and I'm running back and forth across the width of it. I wasn't their thousand eyes to see. I am strong and healthy, and I'm not a grabbling by all those hands. Don't bite them, says Bahar. They don't mean you any harm. Eventually, I return to the front of my enclosure, and when they rush for me again, I start braying. Those horrible honking sounds spewed from my mouth, and I can't stop them. But I don't bite any of the children. This also happens on the second and third days. But on the fourth day, Beggar finally tells me to hush. Hey, they love you, he says. They think you are a wonder, and Then the rest, and then the next day, I look at them. Their, their liquid eyes, their small hands. I listen to their voices that squealed at every little bees. Squirrel, every little bees. Their eyes. Their small hands. I listen to their voices that squirreled at everything. The way they flit about the olive grove like a swarm of little bees. They're reaching and reaching. They are a wonder. And then everything falls apart. It is on the day when a fish comes to me in the morning and examines my strips. Some of your strips are falling, Habibi. I need you. I need to paint you again. All right, I said. Secretly, I am pleased. I don't get any time with Hafiz anymore. He walks me back to my old stable, and when I step inside and see the filtered light streaming between the slats of wood, I feel at home. I like that there is a roof. My bed is there. My brush is there. All my things I held deeply. My hay. My odds, the dirt I have pressed hard with my own feet, the smell of fish lingering from the time that he was too tired to go to his to his own house, and slept in the stable with me. Sharply absent in this murky ascent of the lions. Hafiz retrieves his paints from a corner, and we are quiet as he paints a little white here, a little black here, coaxing the zebra back into my coat. And then a sound comes, a sound like the sky is a stone splitting from the side of a mountain. The ground shakes, and Hafiz and I run to a corner of the stable. I drop I drop to the ground and squeeze my eyes shut. I feel a weight pressing on my back. I know it is a fish when he starts whispering, "Don't move, Habibi. If we are still, we will be all right." We stay huddled together as we listen to yelling outside in the streets. The ground trembles once more. After a while, a kind of quiet returns, but it's different from one, but it's different from other times. It's it feels as if the quiet is shocking me. A fish stands up and walks to where he usually keeps my brush. His hand shakes as he reaches for it. We can take the strips off, Habibi. You don't have to go back to the zoo. I will go back later to see what happens there. I stare at him. This is what I wanted. And yet, but what about the lions? I ask. I need to see them. Hafish turns to look at me, runs a hand through his beard. If that's what you want, Habibi, yes, we can go together. We returned to the zoo. My paint wasn't dry when the when the airstreak comes, so my strips are smeared, and there is paint on Hafish clothing. The pathway that winds in front of my enclosure and the two next to mine are littered with debris. I kept of dirt everywhere. I kept sweeping over pieces of metal and broken concrete and clods of dirt everywhere. It is a clear and sun-soaked day, and when I look around trying to understand what happened, I see that the olive tree that grew in the little central plaza right across the path has been felled by the bomb. The branches are tangled with splintered wood, and a creed smelled merges with the sweetness of the olive blossom. I look up to see where it all came from, but all I see are two silhouettes hovering up overhead. Static in the air like enormous dragonflies. like dark, angular blinds I have never seen before. I want to hide from them, and I look toward the olive tree, hoping it can still offer shelter, but before I run, I heard a sound like a metal scraping metal. I run from the tree and see a fish struggling to open the door at the lion's endorsement. They both lie still on the dirt. They are close to each other, bodies pressed to the ground. One spacious feet appears touched behind her, like she was waiting to pounce. They are pierced with pieces of sharpened. They must have bled to death. They must have bled to death. Hafiz has forgotten me, and I am suddenly aware that I am out of the zoo, and the zoo the way visitors are. I look at the lions again. The door at the back of their enclosure is twisted and mishappened, and Hafiz yanks at it. He leans back and pulls with the full weight of his body until it snaps open and he falls down, curling, cursing. He sits still for a moment. Dust hovers on the air around him. He brings a hand up to his face, and it reminds me of the times I have seen him wipe sweat away. His the same gesture. But he leaves his hand there, covering his eyes. I have seen him wipe sweat away from his same gesture, but he leaves his hands there, covering his eyes, and starts to his body starts to shake. Hafiz, you have to go in. I call to him. He looks up at me. His eyes are red, but he nods and crawls through the doorway into the enclosure and goes to the lions. He gently examines their bodies, the dirt below them and darkened with their blood, and he returns them as best as he can to find all the places where there have been wounded. I have nothing. I watch him sweep and smooth back Bakir's mane. I knew this would happen when I heard the airstrike. We were all so exposed, but Kafish is just discovering it. He although he though we would be fine. He thought we will be fine, that this place of all places in the city would be a shelter. What are we what are we to do, Habibi? I was supposed to keep them safe here. Hafiz wipes his nose and his forehead and then looks up to me. I have nothing to offer. I decide to stay at the zoo. I can't seem to bring myself to go back to my other life. Things have changed. I have changed. I know. For a week, the lion's enclosure is empty. All that's left of them are a few dark smears of their blood on the dirt. Their empty bowels. The ground vibrates with the heavy tanks that pass by on the road outside the zoo. The sound of them rumbling pierces my ears, and I can see them from the spot in my enclosure where I used to stand to talk to the lions. More strange birds cross the sky. I wish that I wasn't here myself. And then suddenly the lions returned to me. I discovered this on a bright morning when I wandered one to our partitions. They are staying on the other. I have never seen them before. I discovered this on my bright morning when I wandered over our partition. They are lying splashed on their stomach. I discovered this on a bright morning when I wandered over our partition. They are lying splayed on their stomach a way I have never seen them before. Their eyes are open and cloudy, and they look rigid and dusty. Hafiz has his back to me, and and is hovering over them with a brush. He is coaxing whether shine is left out of their coats and trying to smooth the cares many. What are you doing? I ask. He looks over his shoulder at me. Our eyes met, but he turns back to the lions. I'm trying to make them look nice, he said. It won't work. Every time I look at them, I see dirt clinging to their coats, and I kept imagining them dying because we arrived too late for me to see what happened. Shrapnel flying into beggar's eyes. Sharpened flying into beggar's eyes, slicing across Baisha's throat. I know it is my fault. I wasn't there with them. I should have warned them, or I should have died instead. It has to work. Habibi keeps brushing them. I don't know who else to do. I don't know what else to do. He stands up and turns to me, wiping his eyes. I'm sorry, Habibi. I know you were friends. And then he waxed out of their cage without coming into my pen. I look over at Beisha. What will I do without you? You have to make new friends. It's her. It's her. You have to make new friends. It's her. I don't know. I don't know how. At first, it feels terrible. Maybe you don't like each other. Then you walk again. And then another time. And then many times after that. And then you are friends without knowing when it happened. Or I could stay here on this side of my pen and talk to you, but I'm dead. You are both dead. You won't have anything for you. You don't have anything for you. She sits unmoving with clouded eyes as her coat collects dirt. And so I do as she speaks, talking and talking, staring over again and again. But every new friend I make perishes. A boy and his friends bring buckets of water for us to drink, but it's too late. Some eagles died of thirst anyway. 3 monkeys starved. A porcupine porcupine, dies, and the same drum streak that kills a Byzantine family. Red refines red ref, red refoid lemurs, tortoise, all death. Red rufflet, lemurs, tortoise, all dead. I go to the lions, and they tell me to try it again. Hafiz has begun letting the few children that still come walk into the cage to pet Baishas and Bagirs. They tried again. Come on the other of tried again. One or the other of them says as tiny hands reach out to touch them. You should always try it again. But it doesn't matter. Everyone is leaving me behind. The crowd of children have stopped coming. Only a few families wander the grounds every few days. They don't seem interested in me anymore. I am lonely, and all I have are the lions. And I'm not even sure about them anymore. They don't move, and their faces aren't static. Their faces are static. I want them to stop speaking to me. Let me tell you a thing about tragedy. At first, every one of the missiles is shocking. You don't know if you will survive it, if you can lose anyone else without losing yourself. And then it becomes ordinarily. They sound as muffled. The news of the death comes to you as if from a great distance, from hovers around you like a swarm of flies. Until of course it comes to you, until of course it comes for you, and then everything changes, everything changes, everything changes, everything changes. And when it comes for me, I remember it all in reverse. There is a greater right outside my enclosure where the path used to be a jagged ball in the dirt. I am on the ground with my front legs tucked under me. There is a hum above me. My ears are ringing, and a kind of pressure squeezes my head. Warm liquid runs slowly from my shoulder down to my foreleg. Hafish drops him over my back, weeping, saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, over and over again. And then Hafish lifts himself away from me, runs backward toward the gate where he usually enters my enclosures. The words he is yelling rush back into my mouth and down his throat. Blood travels back up my legs and returns to my body. A sound that once was loud compressed itself into a small point, and a flash of light rapidly contrast like a flower closing its petals at the night. Then wisps, wisps of smoke condense into a thick cloud, which then collapses into nothing. An object rises up out of the crater and flies away whole, and the earth tumbles back into the crater in perfect arcs. The moment ends with the solid ground beneath me and a clear sky where nothing has ever happened, where nothing will ever happen. Tell me how I can learn to live like this. Afterward, Hafish helps me stand and leads me back to my stable. He sweeps as we walk almost back home. He whips as he whips away my bloody strips and bandage my wounds. He whips as he gathers a pitiful pile of oats that I cannot bear to eat. He whips as he makes my bed out of hay. He only stops whipping when he sleeps beside me that night. Hafish will close the zoo soon. There is nobody left who needs a zebra. It's just us now, me and Hafish, and the holes in the ground.